Moving on to our last presenter, Simon. Is it Blyth or Bly? I never know the answer to that. Bly?
Blyth.
Simon Blyth, VP Operations and Business Development at Spark Integration. Simon has 20 years experience in the IT area, spanning sales, marketing, consulting, and operations. Prior to joining Spark in 2009, Simon was the Executive Vice President and Director at TAP Solutions, a Vancouver company that developed software to overcome complex data integration problems in financial markets. TAP was sold to Fidelity Ventures in 2007. Before moving to Vancouver in 1998, Simon spent 10 years with International Computers Limited, ICL, and major European subsidiary of the Fujitsu Group. So everybody welcome Simon Blyth.
Thanks very much, Steve.
Use the green button.
Use the green button. Okay, right. Okay, well, thanks very much, everybody. Just a quick question. How many people in the audience are either entrepreneurs or planning on being entrepreneurs, starting a company? Okay. You're all way braver than I have. I've never actually started a company. I just wanted to say that. So my job is VP of, actually, I'll just go back. My job is as VP of Operations and Business Development. Another way of looking at that is Chief Revenue Officer. The people who started the company are brilliant technologists, but they don't know very much about money. And they brought me in at the point at which they were ready to start thinking about really scaling up the company. And Spark is an interesting case because it's a situation where we can't just bootstrap. We need 12 or 15 people to get this product to marketplace. So we had to think about this. So the way that I thought about this was really taking a holistic approach to funding. And what I mean by that is saying, well, what are all the funding sources? So I'm not going to share the dollar values with you, but put it this way. These are in millions of dollars. And I just want to share where their money came from. The Canadian government is our largest single investor. Equity investors are almost exactly the same amount. What I call vision clients, and these are clients that are investing in a product that's yet to be proven, so I count them as investors too, and debt. So just some quick thoughts on each of those. For equity investors, I want you to think about, do you really know the people that you know? Places that we got investment from, the guys that came out of University of BC, some of their funding came from their professors who believed in what they were doing so much they invested in the company. Friends of their parents of their friends. One of our biggest investments actually came from a friend of mine that I used to coach soccer with. The question is, you all know hundreds of people. Have you really thought about what those people do and who they're connected to? The second thing is, when you're talking to investors, particularly equity investors, do you have a plan that you plan to deliver on? This is a really big question. I've seen so many plans that talk about the hockey stick development and all that kind of stuff. But do you really actually plan to deliver on that plan? When I came into Spark nearly 2 years ago, it took me 5 months before I was ready to even start writing a business plan. It took me 2 weeks to write a 27-page document, and it took me 6 weeks to get that down to 10 pages, which was actually consumable. And by that time, 7 months on, I began to feel like I really had a plan that I could believe in. In terms of visionary clients, visionary clients are a very special beast. They're people who are prepared to put their careers on the line, investing in a product that's never been proven. So when you think about visionary clients, one of the key things you've got to think about is, where am I going to find those people? We're not talking about early adopters here. We're talking about people who are investing in something that's never been proven. So don't think the first people who bought the iPhone. Think the first people who bought the Apple Newton, the thing that didn't quite work, right? It's the real risk takers. In our case, the answer was, it was the US Department of Defense, and it was in the electronics marketplace, and that meant Southern California. There's no point in trying to find a visionary client in our marketplace in Vancouver. The third one was the Canadian government. Dean talked about SHRED and IRAP and all those sorts of programs, and hopefully you've all done your research on that. But one of the key areas that's completely underinvested in Canadian government is the Canadian trade commissions. Did you know there are 28 Canadian trade offices around the US alone? There's 150 in the world. There's probably on average 2 people in there who are trade commissioners or some similar job title. Their job is to help you sell. They will make appointments for you. They will pay for marketing trips. They will pay for exhibition space. So look for the obvious and the unobvious funding in terms of Canadian government. Key thing about Canadian government funding is it's free. No equity, no debt. And then the fourth one is corporate debt. Debt is often, in the old days, you used to borrow money from a bank and you started a business and those sort of things. The trouble is, banks have developed a new business model where they don't actually lend money to people that need it anymore. So this is a bit of a problem because you need the money, and it's not until you're rich and you've already sold your third company that they want to lend you money. So one of the key areas that you could find this money is venture capitalists. One of our key sponsors is GrowthWorks, and we weren't big enough for GrowthWorks to do venture funding in Spark yet. We only wanted a few $100,000. We didn't want millions. But they said, well, actually, we've got a fund, and we can help you with that, and it's a convertible loan, and it's kind of like a forward payment on investment. So think about VCs and look at their investment profiles. So the one last thing I'd like to leave you with is not one of these people on this chart owes you a dime. You really ought to think about, what do they get out of it? What can I do for them? If you keep that in your mind, you'll do well. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Simon.